Hello again, Gooners. It's me, the Loose Cannon, back with number 43. I was going to get a clapperboard just so that I can actually remember the number of the show, but I've got that covered, right? I've done it already. I'll tell you what's on the agenda. We're going to be, or I'm going to be, because I'm using the Royal We, wearing the Royal Purple, but not the away kit, not yet. I haven't bought it. But if someone wants to send me one, please feel free. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, we're going to talk about the recent friendly game. That's not top of the agenda, but it's there. It's on the menu. Who else are we going to talk about? Nuri Sahin, a possible arrival at the Emirates Stadium. Omar El Kaddouri, possibly going to be joining us, if you believe all these rumours, and we'll be discussing that also in a while. Victor Wanyama of Celtic and Kenya, he could be on the way to Arsenal as well. And of course, Santi Cazorla, finally, I can pronounce his name correctly. It hasn't taken me that long, only a number of days, so bear with me on that. So then the ones coming in, who's going out? Well, we all already know about the likes of Andrey Arshavin, of course, but what you don't know is, or perhaps you do if you've done a lot of research or not even that much, you might have heard that a certain club that's not so very far away from us has made a bid, apparently. I've got news on that coming your way, and of course the Robin Van Persie saga. What more can we say on that? Probably not much at this stage, which is why it leads me on to George Eastham. That was a bit of a saga back in the 60s. Got quiz questions. It's from this book, Steve Stammer's book. I really love that book. That's why I'm reading from it. I never met Steve Stammers as much as I admire him as a journalist. Anyway, questions on George Eastham. When did he play his last game for the club? In which season? I mean, not the exact date. When did he last play for Arsenal? Which season was that? How much did he get sold for? And to which club? So 3 questions. Which season did he play in which season did he play his last game for Arsenal? How much was he sold for? And to which club? So those questions will be answered, if you can bear with me, all the way through to the end of this vlog. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do it now because I'm going to forget otherwise. I did all right with my J-League predictions. I don't know if you can see them there. I didn't get the odds correct. I mean, I couldn't get the odds for all of the games, but I would have been up again. I would have won. So maybe I should start betting real money. I got 5 out of 9 correct, and that was just based on just looking at the fixtures and sort of seeing form, and it was just like the way people probably bet on horse racing. I don't know anything about horses, but if you know your form guides, you can get by on it. But all I'm saying, if there's a bit of a gambler inside you, or I'm not recommending you do that kind of thing. But if you do, then just bet on home, away, and draw. Don't bet on anything complicated, because you would definitely lose out. And even if you do win, like I would be winning in theory, and of course I won on the Euros, but it was peanuts. So it makes you wonder, is it worth your while doing it? I suggest I'll let you make your own mind up. That's what I'll do. But what I'm not going to let you make your own mind up about, well, of course I will, but I want to make my mind up about is what have we learnt from the most recent friendly, the 2-0 defeat. I always say we learn more in defeat than in victory. What did we learn? Well, I think we learned once again our defence is a little frail. Carl Bartley came in for Giroud. I expected Giroud to start. He didn't. Bartley did instead. I think he did pretty well. I was pleased with him. Vermaelen always seems to do well, particularly now as captain. Gibbs had a reasonable game. Jenkinson, good going forward, not so good on the back foot, and many people said he was at fault for the 2 goals. Fabianski was in goal, and that's never a sight I like to see, and he wasn't responsible for the first goal, but partially perhaps he could have done a little bit better, been a bit braver for the second. But had he been brave, perhaps he would have got injured. I'll say no more on that, but on Fabianski, because I'm always knocking him, and I think it's a little bit unfair if I overdo it. And then my hater, where's my red cards? I want to give my hater a red card, because I wonder if he's watched this far. He's not a hater, he's a disliker, because on YouTube, if you're a disliker, I give you back red. You gave me red. I mean, I like red, obviously, because of Arsenal, but I don't like red on my vlog. So leave it out, all right? I'll start using my tough voice in a minute. Carry on like this. Anyway, in midfield, who do we have? We had Song, Arteta, and Diaby in the middle of midfield, and Santos was on the left, Theo on the right. So how did I feel that shaped up? It was all right. It wasn't amazing. We were making forays into Man City territory with that starting 11 with Gervinho up front. This is something I was thinking. I've not really discussed it as far as I can remember, but how does Theo Walcott feel about Gervinho playing up front? Because Theo Walcott is a proper finisher. I mean, people criticise his game, and I can accept some of the criticisms, but one, he's very fast, and two, he can finish. Gervinho is also very fast, but not as fast as Walcott, and he's not as good a finisher from what I've seen. So what is the sense in playing him up front and having Theo on the wing when we know Gervinho is a more natural winger, let's say? Perhaps Arsene Wenger needs these friendlies to work that one out. I'm surprised at him, have to say that. As far as the subs were concerned, Marouane Chamakh came on as a sub, didn't do too badly. I'll tell you who did really well was Chuck Zaniki. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Chuck Zaniki's been in very good form, and perhaps he'll be pressing for a squad, to be in the squad on a regular basis. Who knows? Probably get loaned out, as will Afobe, by the looks of it. Afobe came on too, but Chuck Zaniki really was the impressive player, impressive youngster in that game. Eastman came on as well. Oxlade-Chamberlain, of course, always impresses, and I said we shouldn't put too much weight on his shoulders because he may take a step back this season. He improved in leaps and bounds last season. We can't expect the same level of improvement in the forthcoming season. So I don't want to put pressure on Oxlade-Chamberlain. Perhaps I shouldn't on Anike, but Chuck Anike had an excellent game, so well done to him. Eisfeld didn't manage to impress the way he did by scoring that goal in the previous friendly. And Coquelin, I didn't really notice an awful lot of him. And Mikel, well, people comparing him to Bartley, I'm not sure that's a good comparison to make. I think they're very different types of players. Mikel, a little bit more refined, I feel. I think Mikel is, to me, is a shoe-in, and I'd have him. I'm not sure I'd start him in the forthcoming season, but he'd certainly be on the bench. Bartley wouldn't be far off either. I think we've done very well with our centre backs, and despite all the criticism that seems to be coming from elsewhere. But better move on now to all that transfer news. All that transfer news, is anything really happening? We're not sure, but there's plenty of news out there. Nuri Sahin of Real Madrid apparently has agreed a loan move to a mystery club. A lot of speculation saying that we are in fact that mystery club, and if the deal goes through and we get him on a year's loan, then apparently Luka Modric will move to Real Madrid to replace Sahin, who didn't play a lot last season anyway. He's had a lot of injuries, the Turkey international midfielder. So anyway, Arsene Wenger's been interested in him since 2005, so I wouldn't be that surprised if that deal comes off. But some people are saying the reason why this interest in Sahin has revealed itself is because the Santi Cazorla situation hasn't panned out the way we wanted it to. By now, we expected a deal to be done. That's Arsenal Football Club did, I think. A bid went in for 23 million euros. I actually believe this story. And because Cazorla didn't travel with his teammates, his Malaga teammates, to Venezuela for their pre-season, so he may well be on the move. Whether 23 million euros is going to be enough, I'm not sure. We might have to up it slightly more, and I think we will get our man. Players we won't be getting, in my opinion, are Omar El Kaddouri. He's a Moroccan international playing in the Olympics. He's only 21. He's flattered by our reported interest, but I think it's completely made up, I have to confess. Brescia are his current club. He could be moving to Parma for 5 million euros. Quite why we and Juventus have also been linked remains to be seen. A similar sort of situation has happened regarding Victor Wanyama of Celtic. The Kenyan midfielder could be on the move for £7 million, apparently. That's according to the Daily Mail. It's a race between ourselves and Manchester United, and wait for it, Queen's Park Rangers and Stoke. So I think he's far more likely to end up at Queen's Park Rangers, given the amount of money they're spending on players at the moment. But talking of London rivals, what about Fulham? Did they really make an audacious bid for Andrey Arshavin? £1 million? I mean, what a giveaway price that would be for our record signing. I don't know. I mean, if we want to reduce our wage bill, perhaps getting rid of Arshavin is a way to go ahead. But to just sell him for £1 million just seems completely crazy, given that he's had a decent Euro 2012. So I'm not too sure where the Metro and the Evening Standard are coming from with that story, but it certainly sells newspapers. Oh, it doesn't sell newspapers in their case. They give them away, right? Anyway, let's move on to something else that makes me sick. No, I shouldn't use that as an intro, should I? Let's move on to something that makes Arsene Wenger sick. This transfer talk about our top player, not Andrey Arshavin, as much as I think he is our top player potentially, and I really hope he stays. It's Robin Van Persie, of course. It's turned into a saga. We're all sick of it. Arsene Wenger obviously irritated, but I think Arsene's got to look at the board as well as Robin Van Persie. Robin is just doing what footballers do. If they get in that situation, then they use it to their advantage, and why not? The point is, the club should never have let this get to this situation, and we should have got him to sign way before. But anyway, as I said before, I was going to ask you questions about George Eastham, and unless I read from this book, you're never going to know the answers, are you? Well, some of you will, but I mean, it's before my time even, so that's how old this story is of George Eastham, the George Eastham saga. And this particular saga didn't hurt our club. In fact, we were the beneficiaries of it. So here we go. Steve Stammers. It's kind of Arsenal Jackanory time. Here we go. Eastham was the most unlikely of martyrs. Sorry, I leapt in a little bit there. He had football in his blood. His father played for Bolton, Blackpool and England, and his uncle for Liverpool. So, kind of like an Alex Song, if you like, because Rigobert, of course, played for Liverpool. He was frail looking, but behind that frame, he was a fighter, and he was determined to fight for what he thought was right. This is getting a little cliched here, but I don't want to be critical. He had started his career with Ards in Northern Ireland and joined Newcastle in 1956. In all, he played 125 times for Newcastle and scored 34 goals, but in 1959 he fell out with the club over several issues. He was not happy with the house that had been provided for him or with the part-time job they'd arranged for him to supplement his income of £20 a week. Puts things in perspective a little bit. The maximum wage that players were allowed to earn. Eastham was also unhappy with the way that Newcastle tried to block his appearances for the England under-23 team. At that time, a system was in place known as retain and transfer. The terms of the system meant that clubs had the right to say when a player moved. Eastham, with the backing of the club that wanted to sign him, announced that he thought this was unfair. Well, at least we haven't got to that stage with Robin Van Persie yet. I mean, what sort of part-time job would we give him? Looking after Chu Young Park, perhaps? And making sure he gets the right kind of diet he wants? That was a lame joke. Sorry about that. It's not even a joke. It was like a statement. Anyway, let's continue. His contract, this is Eastham, his contract was due to run out that year. He refused to sign a new one and demanded a transfer. Newcastle not only turned down his request, but also stopped paying him. It was a ludicrous situation, and Eastham later said, "Our contract could bind us to a club for life. Most people call it a slavery contract. We had virtually no rights at all. It was often the case that the guy on the terrace not only earned more than us, though there's nothing wrong with that, but he also had more freedom of movement than us. People in business or in other professions like teaching were able to hand in their notice and we weren't. That was wrong." So Eastham started a process that was to end in a landmark ruling. During the 1959-1960 season, he went on strike and moved south to Guildford, where he worked for an old friend of the family, Ernie Clay, later to become chairman of Fulham. He refused to return to Newcastle and he was treated like an outcast by the club. But come October 1960, Newcastle had to admit that matters had reached an impasse. True, Eastham wasn't playing, but the club recognised that the valuable asset wasn't going to waste and decided to accept the £47,500 being offered by Arsenal. However, Eastham was not finished. He had the backing of the Players' Union, the PFA, who financed him to the tune of £15,000 and eventually the High Court in his favour in 1963. Eastham, who had not let the litigation distract him from impressive form for Arsenal, argued that the situation of the footballer was an illegal restraint of trade and that Newcastle owed him not only £400 in unpaid wages but also £650 in unpaid bonuses. The judge, Justice Wilberforce, came down partly on his side. He agreed that the retain and transfer system was the restraint of trade and unreasonable, but he also said that because Eastham had refused to play for Newcastle during the period of his strike, any payment was to be at the club's discretion. Oh, so he didn't get it all his own way then. Naturally, they refused, but Eastham had won his case in so much as the whole transfer system had to be reformed. Retain was all but eliminated from the procedure and certainly revised. Players could now look for more lucrative terms before re-signing for their clubs at the end of a contract, and a transfer tribunal was set up to mediate on any disputes. However, the stance he took made him a good few thousand enemies on Tyneside. When he returned to St James's Park with Arsenal in the 1959-1960 season, he scored in a 3-3 draw, but he was faced with a barrage of constant jeering, called Judas and pelted with fruit. Hope it was tasty. Eastham had 6 seasons with Arsenal, and by and large he was a regular in the side. However, his stay at Highbury was also eventful off the pitch. The most unlikely-looking rebel became embroiled in another dispute in 1961, this time with the Arsenal board. Bit of a troublemaker, this Eastham, eh? Following the abolition of the outdated maximum wage system. Eastham asked for a pay rise. At first his request was refused, although the board later acceded to his demands. Then he fell out with manager Billy Wright at the start of the 62-63 season, when he was dropped from the team and replaced by striker Joe Baker. In a fit of pique, he asked to be put back in the team or he'd leave the club. Again, he got his way. He was put back inside, playing just behind Baker, and came off the transfer list. Despite the upheavals, however, Eastham reached a level of consistency that was lacking among his teammates. He was called up by England and given a place in Sir Alf Ramsey's squad for the World Cup in 1966. Although he didn't get to play any games during the tournament, and only those who played in the final were actually given medals at the time, FIFA recently backdated the awards and handed out medals to squad members as well. Thus, Eastham became the first Arsenal player to possess a World Cup winner's medal. Eastham played his last game, here's the answer to the question, for Arsenal at the end of the 65-66 season, and here's the other 2 answers, who he was sold to and for how much, and he was sold to Stoke City for £35,000 in August 1966. So, there you have it. He also he became the oldest player to pick up a winner's medal at Wembley when his Stoke City side beat Chelsea in 1972, and he was aged 35 and 161 days. I didn't ask that question. In the end, he moved to South Africa, and I don't know if he still is, but I imagine he still is, chairman of the South African Arsenal Supporters Club. So well done, George Eastham. What a career! What a career he had. Shame he didn't play in the World Cup final, and but great to win a World Cup winners medal anyway. Anyway, that's all for this time. Hope you enjoyed it, especially that person that keeps putting dislike. Another red card to you, my disliker. Until the next time, up the Gooners.